here's the thing, FOMO it's not just a playful quirk of our modern life of, FOMO, it's a fun thing. It can have serious implications for our mental, relational, and spiritual health. It subtly but powerfully shapes how we live and what we value. And so first, FOMO creates anxiety and restlessness in us. There's just that nagging feeling that, man, I'm missing out on something, events or opportunities or just life in general. And that keeps us perpetually dissatisfied with things in life. And social media just fuels this by constantly showing us what others are doing, where they are, what they have, making our own lives maybe feel smaller in comparison. And so like King Solomon said in Ecclesiastes, the more we consume, the more we crave, and the cycle of restlessness continues. The second thing is FOMO also distracts us from meaningful relationships. We habitually just take our phones out even when we're with other people. That's what I discovered in my own life. Even at home when I'm with my kids, I'm constantly just like checking my email rather than just being fully present with them. It distracts us from those meaningful things. We see it in restaurants and stores everywhere. People may be together, but they're constantly glancing at their phones rather than having uninterrupted conversations. Or we're also just slow to commit to anything in life. This is something I've noticed over the last 10 years of being a pastor is, people think, well, what if something better comes up? And so they just don't sign up for events, or they don't sign up to be on a team or anything. And whether it's in the church or outside of the church, people just don't like committing to things anymore because we have that FOMO. What if a better opportunity comes? But when we do this, and when we don't commit to things, that affects more than we know. Over time, this weakens our connections with the people that we care most about. And instead of truly engaging in things, we just skim the surface of our relationships at church and within the community, and we just never go deeper in life. We miss out on true community. And then also, the third thing is FOMO disconnects us from God. The endless noise of our devices and just our business, it competes with God's still small voice. And so in Psalm 46:10, it says, "Be still and know that I am God." But we don't like to be still very often. Because how can we be still when we're constantly chasing updates and notifications, and when we're constantly have noise in our ears and in front of our eyes? Like, we just can't. And because the reality is, if we can't patiently wait in line at the grocery store without having the need to pull out our phone, if we can't sit at a red light and traffic and like, oh, it's an opportunity to look at my phone. Like, if we can't do that, then how can we ever sit in God's presence in prayer and silence and solitude? Like, you can't. We're training ourselves not to be able to handle that quiet and silence. FOMO keeps our hearts and our minds so cluttered that we struggle to make space for God's presence and peace. And I've talked with people about this before, that they come to me saying, I want to hear God's voice. How do I hear God's voice? And through conversation, I begin to ask them, well, how often do you sit in silence? And they'll look at me like I suggested waterboarding or something. They're just like, why would I sit in silence for 5 minutes? And it's people are just so uncomfortable. Like, I'll find that they just always have to have the TV on, or the radio, or music, or a podcast, or a YouTube video playing. Like, they can't handle the silence. But when we become that way, that strangles our ability to be silent and hear the still small voice of God. And so honestly, FOMO ends up causing us to miss out on some of the best things in life, which is peace and connection and joy of being fully present in the moment with God and with others. So the question for us then is there something about living in God's kingdom that can free us from the tyranny of FOMO? Can we be free of the fear of missing out? And the answer is yes, absolutely. A couple things I want to share with you. The first comes from 1 Thessalonians. This is a letter that the Apostle Paul wrote to a young church who is experiencing persecution. And what he's doing in this letter is he's addressing foundational Christian concerns, just about how to live your life and the return of Jesus and living a holy life and staying faithful. And if you like history, that a lot of scholars believe that 1 Thessalonians was the earliest written book in the New Testament. So of all the things in the New Testament, 1 Thessalonians might be the earliest written, if that makes sense. So let me read to you of just Paul's, he's offering some simple wisdom, super simple, but it goes against the grain of our modern Western way of life. So 1 Thessalonians 4:11, what he says is, Aim to live quietly, mind your own business, and earn your own living, just as I told you. Super simple advice. But how many of us actually make that our aim in life? You know, hey, what's your goal in life? Oh, I want to live a quiet and simple life. I just want to mind my own business. Like most of us would not respond that way if we ask, hey, what are you pursuing in life? Because FOMO, the fear of missing out, says, no, I got to do more. I need to see more. I need to be more. I need to experience more. And Paul's like, no, just aim to live quietly. FOMO says, you need to stay up to date on the news and the politics of our day. You need to be a highly informed person. You need to know as much as you can about everything as you can. And you need to be on social media so you don't miss out on anything important. And Paul's like, no, mind your own business. You don't need to know everything. Sure, we can be informed citizens without like having that craven need to know everything. So how different would your life look if that was your vision for your life? I think so many of us find ourselves in trouble. We're distracted, we're busy, we're doing all sorts of things in life that we, shouldn't be because we're not pursuing this as our goal for life. To live quietly, just mind our own business. It's hilariously simple, and yet it's incredibly profound. Because most of the influencers you may see on social media, they advocate the opposite. Live a boisterous life, a loud life, live a rich life, and know everything, be in everybody's business. No. Live quietly. Mind your own business. You see, the way of Jesus and his kingdom offers a different way of living, and we could give it a name here. This isn't original with me, but we could call it JOMO, the joy of missing out. So fear of missing out, FOMO, and JOMO, the joy of missing out. So we see this invitation to JOMO beautifully illustrated in the story of Mary and Martha in Luke chapter 10. And so I want to read this to you. It's Luke chapter 10, verse 38. It says, while Jesus and his disciples were traveling, Jesus entered a village where a woman named Martha welcomed him as a guest. She had a sister named Mary who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his message. By contrast, Martha was preoccupied with getting everything ready for their meal. So Martha came to Jesus and said, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to prepare the table all by myself? Tell her to help me. And the Lord answered, Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. One thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the better part. It won't be taken away from her. And when we read this, I think people are a little too mean to Martha in this story. I mean, Martha's doing good work here. She's preparing a meal and serving others. And hospitality is important, especially back in that culture, that when the guest comes into your house, you want to be hospitable to them. So she was doing the good thing of trying to make sure that Jesus is taken care of in that. But what we see is in her busyness, in her attempt to do what she ought to be doing, she became distracted by what Jesus says, many things that needed her attention. She's distracted by them. So it's possible to do things that you ought to be doing without being consumed by them, without being distracted by them. And as a result of being distracted by them, she became anxious and overwhelmed. And maybe we could say convinced that her worth was tied to doing more. We don't do things like that, do we, in our life? Like, we don't try to hack our productivity or level up our multitasking and get more things done. How many things can I check off in a day? Being task-oriented at the cost of those around us. We would never do that, right? Well, unfortunately, like Martha, we often find ourselves distracted by our modern many things, whether it's notifications or emails or to-do lists, the endless pull of our devices, or just our pursuits that we may have in life of trying to be rich or whatever it is. And so we end up being too busy juggling tasks or procrastinating things while scrolling, and that we lose sight of what matters most. And we see here with Martha that it affected the posture that she had towards Jesus. Because we see Martha, she comes to Jesus complaining to Jesus, and then she's telling Jesus what he should do about it. Like, do you see that? Martha says, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to prepare the table all by myself? So Jesus, tell her to help me. Is that the posture we should take to Jesus? Hey, Jesus, let me tell you how it is, man. This is what you need to do, Jesus. Like, I don't think you have the right heart posture there. But how often do our prayers sound like that? You know, we're complaining or we're informing God about a mess in life or this difficulty or something, and then we tell him how he ought to fix it. You know, God, I'm so overwhelmed right now. I just have so much to do, and it feels like nothing's going right. God, you know, my coworkers at work, they're just not pulling their weight, and my kids, they're just being so difficult right now, and I just can't seem to get everything done. So God, just move in my life, fix things for me, God. God, get people to help me out, change their hearts so that they can help me in the things I'm doing, and just, God, give me the strength to push through. We probably have prayed like that before, probably a lot of times. But what if God is hearing our prayers and his response might be more like, hey, I hear you, but you know what? You're distracted by many things. Things I never told you to pursue or engage in. Slow down. Take a step back. Live a quieter life. Mind your own business a little bit more. And then you will taste and see my presence and peace. How many of us are just chasing after so many things in life, and we're exhausting ourselves and then asking God for help, and God's like, just take a step back, slow down. You're chasing after things I never told you to chase after. That's your problem. So while Martha was worried about missing out on meeting everyone's expectations, Mary found joy in fulfilling Mary found joy in missing out on the expectations that were placed on her. Because in that world, that Mary probably should have been helping Martha in the kitchen. But she didn't. She's like, I don't have to fulfill those expectations. I know that there's something greater here, and I'm going to sit here with Jesus. And that's why Jesus gently corrected Martha. And so Jesus told her, he said, you are worried and distracted by many things. But really, one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the better part. Mary knows Jesus is here, and so I'm going to sit here with him and abide with him. So for us, maybe some of our modern many things that distract us could be our phones buzzing with notifications or social media feeds showing us everything that we crave. It could be side hustling constantly to make an extra buck, or poring over news articles and getting sucked into the constant political drama. You know, and none of those things are inherently bad. Like if you do those things, it's like, yeah, that's not a bad thing. It could be a good thing. None of those things are inherently bad, but are they giving you life? Are you being filled with peace by engaging in those things? Are they drawing you closer to God or farther away from God? Are they causing you to become increasingly a person of love? And when we frame it in that way, we may be like, oh, well, maybe I'm chasing the wrong things. I am distracted by many things that I shouldn't be. Whereas Mary chose to pause, to unplug, to reject the social norms and expectations placed on her, and to be fully present with God. What if you tried that?